How's it going, Reef Keepers? Welcome back to the Reefing Made Practical series. This video is going to cover aquascaping, and all I can do with aquascaping is tell you guys what my personal aquascaping approach or mantra is, because I found it to be rather successful. If you're interested in other kinds of aquascaping, there's a million videos out there on how to glue a bunch of spindly rocks together into an art project. But the way that I aquascape is a more functional form of aquascaping. And by that I mean I have several things in mind when I approach an aquascape. So this is a 4-foot tank right here. It's, I think, 22 or 23 inches deep. Pretty typical reef tank, 80 gallons. When you're aquascaping a tank that's 3 or 4 feet, which I think is most people's tanks, right? You have enough room that you can set certain priorities like hiding spots for fish. That's always a huge priority for me because it keeps aggression down, which allows you to have more fish, right? Also, water flow, not just around the rock structures, but below them, so underneath them and through them, which is something I think is overlooked a lot. You want a lot of water flow to be able to get under your scape and wash things out, to get between all the crevices of the rock so that detritus doesn't build up and rot and make your tank sick. And then, of course, there's just aesthetic, right? Like, you don't want it to look like a pile of rocks. You want it to actually have some beautiful aesthetic. And in doing or seeking to accomplish all these priorities, you often accomplish a final priority that I think all of us forget, which is that you do want quite a bit of live rock, I think, to have the most beneficial biological filtration that you can possibly have, because live rock is the primary filtration for any reef tank. That's where your biome that breaks down detritus and kicks off every bacterial cycle that you need to keep your tank stable takes place. That's where those creatures live. So the way that I aquascape is this. I start at the bottom with large chunks of rock, and those serve as base rocks. In this particular aquascape, I staggered them. So I had like one back, one front, one back, one front, one back, or one front, one back, and just made sure that there were channels underneath for water to pass through. Then I layered on top of it. I put flat Marco white shelf rock all along the top of those base rocks. You can see them at different angles, and I kind of angled them so that there was some, again, aesthetic to it. Wanted it to look beautiful, right? Then I put some smaller support rocks here, 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 and finally one final layer of shelf rock across the top to create that top tier of coral real estate for hard corals. Now, you may not be interested in hard corals. You may not need that top tier. Your tank may be a 2-foot by 2-foot cube, which means you're not going to have the real estate to do this, long aquascape, so to speak. You need to go more vertical with it and get creative to allow light to hit more surfaces of rock, thus creating more space for you to put corals. But I think that there's a few things that we should never lose sight of. One, don't make your tank look like a spindly art project at the expense of the fish being comfortable. Most of us keep fish. Even if we're coral people, we keep fish. Don't let the fish be stressed and uncomfortable and upset. It will make the entire experience of reef keeping a negative one for you, right? Give them places to seek shelter and come out at will, so they feel like they have some control over their lives. I mean, we're putting them in glass boxes. They already have very little control, right? So give them that much control. Let them seek shelter. And then 2, make sure that you're creating avenues for water flow to get through the rock and just kind of naturally clean it out over time, right? And then things like aesthetic and maybe adding more rock if you can to get that extra biological filtration. That stuff can come as secondary concerns, but I think that the first couple of things that I went over, those first top priorities, are the most important. And I always use premium Marco dry rock. And I think that stuff, I used a few different kinds when I started reef keeping, and now every tank I set up, it's just boom, right back to Marco rock, because honestly, I think it's the most stunningly beautiful. And then once it's overtaken by coral and algae and ocean critters, I think it looks the most like real reef rock. It feels the most authentic to me. So even though it's not, of course. But that's it. That is all I can really give you as far as Aquascape goes. You know, any last tips would be leave space around the entirety of the rock structure for fish to swim. And also make sure that you don't accidentally drop a rock in your tank, especially a larger one, as you are starting the aquascape, because those things are heavy and they will crack the bottom glass of your tank. So just watch yourselves, guys. All right, thanks very much. If you are enjoying the series, please like and subscribe.